Welcome to Unapologetically Yours, a podcast where we go deep on everything from spirituality to relationships and connection to business and belief systems. Because in a world where we've been taught to play by the rules, it's time to live unapologetically. Hello. Welcome to the latest episode of the Unapologetically Yours podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Logan, and I am so happy to have you here today. I am coming off of a week of just going through a move, and moving is hard. It's hard under the best of circumstances and grueling under the worst. So I wanted to get a little bit more personal today than I normally do when it comes to what's going on in my family and my home. As some of you may know, I am in the process of going through a divorce from my husband of nearly 9 years, and we have 3 little kids, ages 4, 6, and 8. And I'm not going to go into the details of how we got to this point. But I do want to tell a story about what it has been like going through the process of finding a new house and figuring all of these moving pieces, and how beautiful it is when you trust the universe and trust in the feminine. So long story short, there's so much backstory here, but ultimately we had lived in a home in Hinsdale for 5 years that we renovated, and it was beautiful. But and it still continues to be one of my favorite places ever. It was not easy when we made the decision that it wasn't going to make sense for either of us to stay in the house, and that we were going to have to sell. And so trying to figure out, like, one, how do you make it work financially to have 2 houses? And how do you create a scenario where there's minimal impact on the children? And so that in itself was such a difficult process, and difficult to come to the realization that is what we were going to have to do. And so for me, as someone who owns a business and has been self-employed for the last 15 years, I really wanted to make sure that I could find a place that I could afford. And so the process, I've always said that real estate is extremely divinely guided. So at first was, for those of you who know what's going on in the suburban real estate market in Chicago, it's just insanity. You can list a house and it will sell that day, oftentimes for over asking price. And with high interest rates, trying to find something affordable was top of mind. And so was trying to stay in the current town and try to figure out how that was all going to be possible. I ended up finding a place that I really loved in a nearby town and making an offer. And ultimately, my family lives in this town, and it's a really wonderful community, but made the decision that I wanted to just sort of trust the process and trust that something was going to come up in Hinsdale that would allow my kids to stay in an area where they have so much community and so much support, and where we've really built our network as a family over the last, since we moved there almost 6 years ago. So for me, this meant just really surrendering to the universe and the powers that be. I went through and walked. I'm a big walker. As you guys know, I spend tons of time in nature. I love to hoof it all around town. I usually walk like 3 to 5 miles every single day, and use that as sort of part of my meditative practice. And so as I would walk around town, I made a list of probably 3 dozen properties, and where I thought like, okay, maybe these are houses that haven't come on the market in a long time or haven't been updated in a while, and trying to find that off-market deal that would allow me to stay in this town at a bargain price point. And let me tell you something, I am the ultimate bargain shopper. So it was really important to me that we finalize our parenting agreement before listing the house so that we could be aligned on things like overnights and where the kids are going to be and how they're going to spend their time, and how we're going to co-parent together. I had some time to figure this out. I walked around and put letters in mailboxes of over 30 different houses all around Hinsdale. And my hope initially was that the kids could stay at their current school, which is a wonderful place and they've got a great community, but really was just important that they stay within the district. And I got a couple of replies from people saying, we're not ready to sell, or, good luck on your search, but we're going to be here for a while. And just continued to hold out hope. And then one weekend, a house came on the market that checked all of my boxes. And it was this period of time where it was like school was already out, camps were in session, and it just seemed to be this lull in the market where this place kind of flew under the radar. And I went in, and it was on the other side of town, actually 2 blocks away from where my ex had found a place to live. And I had to wrestle with myself a little bit about this. Is it going to be more easeful to be nearby? And is that going to create more conflict and tension? And ultimately made the decision that this house was going to create the environment that would allow me to lead with love and to set down any of my apprehension and focus on what is best for our children. And what's best for our children is being nearby. And it was funny to me how after, months and months of keeping an eye on the market, that this house came up that forced me to answer some questions about myself and to really put my money where my mouth is, literally about how I wanted to show up in the divorce and how I wanted to maintain this commitment to putting our family first, creating a scenario where we could co-parent together under the best circumstances. And mind you, divorce creates tension in and of itself, and just the process of having attorneys. And so no matter what kind of terms you might be on with someone, it's tricky to navigate these waters. So as I'm sitting there looking at this house that checks all of these boxes, I knew that it was where I needed to be. So made an offer on the house, and it was accepted. But here was the catch about the whole thing. From a financial standpoint, we still hadn't figured out how the proceeds of our current home were going to be allocated, and our house wasn't even for sale. And the way that my finances are structured is that everything is either tied up kind of in my home or in business. And I wasn't exactly sure how this is going to work out financially to close on the property. But I had 45 days to figure it out. And this is where the story gets really good. Within a matter of a couple of weeks, we were able to navigate the parenting agreement and get that to a place where we're comfortable listing the house. And meanwhile, I am advancing through the attorney approval period and all of these things and the financing contingency for the house that I wanted to close on, still not entirely sure where the down payment was going to come from and how I was going to make that work. So once we got to a point where the parenting agreement was close enough, we made the decision to list the house. And at this point, I am about 2.5 weeks away from the closing date on the new home. The house sold within 24 hours, cash offer as is, 2-week close. And I sitting there in awe, like, holy shit. Okay, this means that with the sale of our house, I'll be able to get the down payment to close on the new one, and we can move forward with kind of our new existence. But there was a pretty big challenge with this. One, the kids and their dad were going to be out of town during the time of the closing. And so that meant that it was going to be up to me to move us out of our house entirely. And I only had a really short period of time to do so. And just given the way that real estate works, I didn't want to until we had the clear to close and we had the attorney approval period on the sale of our house completed. I was reluctant to book movers and do all of the things that would need to be done to get this process finished. So, but once we had the signed contract, and the final contract and the clear to close, it was go time. And this is where I have so much awe and so much gratitude of how the universe delivered to my family to create just the absolute best scenario that could be under circumstances that are otherwise really hard and painful and deeply difficult to manage. So enter the matriarchy. And let me just tell you that the second that it was time to start packing up the house, my sisters showed up in abundance. My girlfriend showed up in abundance. And it was time to take everything out of the drawers, out of the shelves, and into boxes to get them out for us to move. And let me tell you, moving out of a house in a short period of time is a feat in and of itself. I had movers lined up for, this was a Friday. I had movers lined up for Wednesday and had to be out of the house by 11 o'clock on Wednesday and had that closing time. The number of people who showed up for me in ways that I can't describe was unbelievable. And so from my sister showing up and helping to pack, girlfriends coming and cleaning out my pantry, people sending over dinner. At one point, I had 4 girlfriends over and they are all just packing up my closet. They did such a thorough job that all I had left were the clothes on my body, the shoes on my feet, and everything else was packed away. I had made the decision to, maybe by Monday, I was like, this is going to be a lot for the movers to clear out in just one day. So decided to rent a truck, and the truck came with an option, like an add-on, like, do you want some people to help you move? And I said yes. And the most amazing moving company showed up. They just do a loading and unloading. And within 2 hours, these men loaded up the truck, and so that I could make a pretty big dent in the stuff that was leaving the house. And then I woke up the next morning and thought, I should probably try to do this again and get everyone get mostly out of the house so that I can clean and do everything for the walkthrough on Wednesday. Long story short, it all came together. And throw in a pretty massive garage sale that took place on that Sunday that my dad and stepmom helped me to run. And I can't remember a time when I have felt more supported, more love from the community, and more support from the people around me as we got out of the house and then into the new house. And as luck would have it, there was a gap in the closing dates. So I had to be out of the house Wednesday, but couldn't move into my new one until Friday. And it was actually kind of nice to have just like a little bit of a break, because one of the things I didn't mention was on the night before I started packing for the move, I jammed my toe. I broke 2 toes. And so I have 2 broken toes. trying to move, trying to pack everything. And what is so amazing to me is how every single person who came by to help, I said, thank you so much. You made such a big difference. Thank you. Thank you. They all said, I didn't do anything. I didn't do much. And shows me how important and how helpful it is to every little person doing a little bit. Every people working together makes a huge difference. And so then come Friday, it was time to move into the house. I had people directing traffic. I had I had a limited amount of time to get the house all organized before my kids returned from their trip. So I'm painting walls and girlfriends are showing up and helping me paint. I have my sister bringing over a lawnmower and pushing it around my yard, and my dad building a cool indoor tree house. My stepmom driving around running errands and tolerating everyone's all of the chaotic energy of hustle. I share this because to get from point A to point B there were so many unknowns. There were so many unknowns at the start of the process of knowing that I didn't have an idea where I was going to live and where was going to be the next place for me to plant roots and create a safe and supportive and nurturing environment for my children. And with that has the potential to create so much fear. And instead of being afraid, I just trusted that I was held and trusted that by making an offer on the new house, that somehow I was going to close on it and I was going to figure out all the finances so that it came through. And I had multiple friends and colleagues and all who said, hey, if it doesn't work out, I got you. I'll give you the money for the down payment. Or, which just meant the absolute world to me. And then also knowing that the timing of had I moved forward with the house in the other town, which I didn't, in my gut, I just had a feeling that it was important to wait, and trusting myself and trusting that the right option was going to come up was really, was something that's newer for me. In the past, I might have pushed. I might have said, well, I made an offer. I better follow through on it if they accept it. I would have probably led with a lot more fear. And I also probably drove everyone crazy as, we're in go mode packing, that I was actually calm because I knew that I was supported and I knew that we were going to get it all done and that we'd come out on the other side. And so here I am, still have broken toes. Probably will get those looked at some point, and have the keys. The kids' rooms are painted. Their clothes are in the closet, and the knowledge that in all of the chaos, all of the gut ache, all of the worry, that it's all going to be okay. And that knowledge comes from knowing that I'm supported, knowing that the universe has my back, knowing that the men and women in my life are there to help make sure that we can create the best circumstances out of anything that life hands us. There's a lot of tears. There's a lot of tears as one of my friends sent a text. Sorry, I can't help tonight, but just ordered you guys pizza. Crying. People showing up in ways that I couldn't have dreamed of. And it's a reminder to trust the seeds that you've planted. And also, I reflect on how I show up in the world and know what a difference it makes to just be there for someone. So if you have the opportunity to show up, whether it's to help pack a box, bring a meal, to offer words of encouragement, don't underestimate how long of a way, how big of an impact that can make for someone. Because when we all work together, it might not be a big deal for you, it can move mountains for someone else. The road ahead is, sure, has some uncertainty. The kids will be starting at a new school. All of the children that I've met who go there are fantastic and looking forward to making new friends, creating new routines. And while I don't have all the answers, I do know that when you show up with trust, when you lead with love, that the universe will surprise you and support you in ways that you couldn't have imagined. And to the real life angels who showed up for me, men and women, young and old, over the last 2 weeks to get through this phase, I am eternally grateful and thank you. It matters. You matter. The difference that you can make in the world is vast. And now, as I navigate mish-sized rugs and furniture that doesn't fit and the pictures that need to be hung, I have so much gratitude for a place that we can call home. And the fact that it is in such close proximity to my kid's dad is incredible, because it will create the best case scenario for them to thrive, build independence, and know how deeply loved and supported that they are. Thank you for tuning in as I share a little bit about this journey from frantically trying to find a house that I can afford, dropping 30 different letters in people's mailboxes all around town, and then just trusting that it would all be okay. From selling the house, packing things up, getting the keys to a new one, a new chapter is beginning. And hold our cute family in your thoughts and prayers, and know that I am so grateful, and we are so grateful. And also know that we are trusting that it is all going to be okay. And love is always the answer when it comes to navigating difficult waters. I'm too tired. My arms hurt. Got to fill the refrigerator, but deeply, deeply grateful. Thank you so much for tuning in as I share a little bit on the personal side today. And until next time, I am unapologetically yours always. Thank you so much for tuning in. Go out, make some mischief in the world. And until then, I'm Ashley, and I'm unapologetically yours.